actually benefit everyone in that society. But what if those people, I'd have to say that even the very richest in our society are not acting in their own self-interest because of the massive amounts of pollution and waste that capitalism creates. So they're destroying their own environment, and that is not acting in their best interest. So I question really the soundness behind the invisible hand altogether. It sounds like Magic Man in the sky is going to make everything okay. Also, most data recently argues that the rich are getting richer in this country while the wealth gap increases. So we're actually losing money. So we, the bottom class, the working class, I don't know if everyone in here falls into that, I do, we're getting poorer, which means our chances to climb out of poverty becomes less and less. I'd also like to point out that another reason capitalism is inefficient is because it demands something called cyclical consumption, which means resources are constantly being consumed and then consumed again with no regard for renewability rates, how fast we could get them back, if we're ever going to be able to get them back. Capitalism requires consumption over and over again, and that is very detrimental to our entire environment. Also, you brought up the Wall-E point when you thought of this, but I see that society happening more so today than any other, because after a long 8-hour workday, what do most people do? They go and sit in their recliner in front of the idiot box, eat some McDonald's. So I don't really see that being an issue. If they're not so tired from meticulous jobs, they'd probably be more energetic to research astrophysics or subatomic particles.
30 seconds.
Also, you talk about wants, but I'd have to say that the people who produce the wants in the society are the people who are giving advertising. So depending on how the society is structured, those wants are going to come out of, they're going to be different. That's where I'll end.
Okay, first affirmative counter rebuttal.
Alright, so I'll just address a few of these issues. What, I have 2 minutes? 1 minute?
Well, you could have 5 minutes, that's what the... But 2 is good.
I'd like to address the wealth gap initially stated. I have to agree that there is kind of this problem that we're happening where obviously the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. I kind of addressed the wealthy are actually employing people. It doesn't really help for the wealthy to just accumulate wealth and just hoard it like an Ebenezer Scrooge type of scenario. The problem, or what people are seeing, is a lot of this wealth is actually accumulated through different type of business venues. They're getting stocks in different capitals, and it's just kind of building up to the top, and it's harder and harder for people to break through. I'd actually say this is a failure in the government to promote market capitalism. We are preventing little people at the bottom to break in and create business, just because it's so stringent, restrictions are so stringent, that only the people that have money are able to break through and hire a lawyer to go start a business. So that, I would say, is actually a problem in the model. We actually don't have a free market society anymore. I would like to address the quality issue that Cody brought up, that you want to cut costs, so you're just trying to make things cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. The strange thing is it lasts for a little bit until people realize I'm going to get a crappy product and they stop buying it. And this happened with McDonald's. They were producing really, really cheap food, and it was like, I don't know, for a while they were like, look at the cheese, they're like, is this like real or is it petroleum? And people started realizing that, McDonald's food was not healthy for them. I think everybody knows now that they have apples in their Happy Meals. They offer their little parfaits. They offer an alternative to Starbucks coffee that's supposedly better, and they have calorie counts on all their menus so that you can tell what is healthy and what's not. And that actually is a response to society demanding a higher quality product. Obviously, prices are increasing too, but I'm just trying to make a point that quality is something that people do desire, and that competition, if people actually want it, it will appear in a market society. Then the other issue said that a market requires cyclical consumption, that you have to keep consuming for an economy to grow. Yes, that is true to a certain extent. consumption aids production or growth. People won't produce, companies won't produce unless people are willing to demand their product. But fortunately, a lot of things you do have to keep consuming. Obviously, you can't just buy an apple and say, I hope this is a renewable resource. I mean, you have to eat it in order to have energy. And that, I think, stems a lot of things. Now, obviously, Cody's hypothetical world would eliminate a lot of that, saying that everything would be very renewable. And that would be interesting if we ever got to a point. Obviously, that would, I think, could be an argument, a debate within itself, is looking at the usability, renewability of resources, and why businesses obviously don't want to make things last forever because it would hinder their consumption. But on the other hand, I had a teapot that broke after 6 months that I bought for $30, one of those electric teapots, and I got mad. So I went to Macy's and bought a $100 teapot, and if it breaks the ceiling, I'm going to be very mad. So there is somewhat of a quality there. People are willing to spend more for things to last longer. And then there's the advertising issue, that desire is aided by marketing, and I think that actually is a very good point. Are we consuming so much, wanting the new hip item, when maybe that cell phone would last a little bit longer? And my question would be then, as a society, are we just consuming to consume because we want to look cool, and are we going to adapt as a result? And yes, I agree, we do have a spending problem with that.
Okay.
Negative counter rebuttal.
I'd like to first of all say I do agree with you that yes, as living organisms, we do need to constantly be consuming food and water for energy and the things that sustain us for life. I'd also like to say that it's not that we don't have a free market society anymore, it's that we've never had a free market society. So the Venus Project, or resource-based economy that I described, is just as hypothetical as this magical free market that she's deciding, because there's never been a free market that is free of government regulation. The statement that if the society demands it enough, it will appear in a market society, that's only true to an extent, because if everybody in here and everybody, the majority of, say, the country, demanded a cure for cancer, and the cure for cancer was found, how many jobs in the medical industry would be lost? How hard would that hit the economy? So it seems like they weigh the populace's demand versus profit, and profit always wins. I believe I'm good with that.
Is that it?
Closing statements.
I mean, I felt like I kind of did my closing statements in the last one. I just want everybody to realize that, as Cody said, you can't have a complete free economy. That there's always been government regulation. But I want you to realize, and if you need to go home and look at the data, countries that are considered economically free do grow, and they do prosper. If you look at Hong Kong, their only resource is labor. They have no natural resources in that country. So as a result, they have no tariffs, and they allow competition to just thrive as it is. And as a result, people work really hard, and their GDP per capita is almost that of the United States. So I want you to realize that countries that have freedom grow. And yes, there are going to be problems with it. But as I mentioned with all my other problems with the resource-based economy, I don't know if it's actually implementable. Let's put it that way. That it's a possible, plausible idea. And then but things over time, and if you have a true market-based economy, things will overturn in time. Cancer research, for your example, is a very new item. Honestly, we haven't really had cancer for a while. So you have science looking at it and say, oh, we are going to fix it and all this money, but I think the natural alternatives are popping up. And just look at the economy around you and see that natural questions will pop up, and I would say in the course of human time, things will get turned over as a result of the free market, as long as the free market exists.
Closing statements.
I'd like to read 3 quotes by Jacques Fresco. He's the founder of the Venus Project, which is a nonprofit organization working on developing and building a resource-based economy. He's actually the person who coined the term resource-based economy. Today we have access to highly advanced technologies, but our social and economic system has not kept up with our technological capabilities. that could easily create a world of abundance, free of servitude and death. The Venus Project is neither utopian nor Orwellian, nor does it reflect the dreams of impractical idealists. Instead, it presents attainable goals requiring only the intelligent application of what we already know. The only limitations are those we impose upon ourselves. And lastly, the uncreative mind can spot the wrong answers, but it takes a very creative mind to spot the wrong questions. The question has never been, do we have the money? The question has always been, do we have the resources? John Fresco. I'd like to end by saying thank all of you for coming, and thank you, Professor Serpa, for taking it easy on me.
Last we have our debate between Camacho, arguing for determinism, and Professor Hicks, who is arguing for free will. I'll be passing out Pico's argument at this time.
Smile for the camera, boys. Smile for the camera.
Well, you just call it. If you win the vote, you get to decide.
Can I have everyone's attention? Please. So I'll begin. Professor Hicks has won the coin toss, and he has volunteered to go first.
Thank you. Thank you all for bearing with us. I know it's probably gone a little longer than we all anticipated, but hopefully you're having a good time. So I will be talking about the position of free will. So let me first start by giving you one assumption, at least that I begin with. And that assumption is that I think it is self-evident, at least it's a self-evident fact to me, that we can deliberate about our actions and that we make choices. So from that position, I will build on and move from there. So let me first start by trying to define free will, and I won't use any Merriam's or any other dictionaries. It'll be my own. Okay, so generally speaking, all of us ordinarily have a sense that we're free. We have this feeling that we can do what it is that we want to do. In other words, I chose to participate in this debate. You chose to attend this debate. So we have this sensation that we feel free, and we are free when we actually can do these actions. So what does it mean really to be free? Well, if whatever you do is your choice, and our choices are coming directly from us, specifically our internal aspect of who we are, there seems to be an element of free that is just not a feeling. Okay, so as long as we are not forced by constraint, by external constraint that is, specifically, that is, you weren't drugged here, shackled to the chair, forced to sit here and endure this horrific speech that I'm giving. I apologize for that. Regardless, insofar as we are not forced by these external constraints, my definition, at least with regard to free will, is that we have the capacity to size up a situation, think about our options, and choose how we will act. when we do this, we can say that we are free.